everybody. Shout out to Luke and Kevin for putting this together. I feel woefully underqualified to be speaking at a pro-natalist conference, other than the fact that I'm a father of two. My wife is currently expecting our third. Thank you. This is something, certainly not an expert, but I've become incredibly passionate about it in a roundabout way, and that roundabout way is Bitcoin. People think we're crazy Bitcoin people, but having been in this space for 12 years, I truly think that Bitcoin is pivotal to solving a lot of the problems that we've been talking about today, and more generally, sound money compared to easy money. So we're going to talk about money, time preference, and family tonight. We can go to the next slide. What is money? Talk about counterintuitive. Money is literally the most important tool that we use as humans. It's a bit counterintuitive because we don't think about it. We were fish born in the water and we're just swimming, and you don't really think about what money is. But money, at the end of the day, is 1/2 of every economic transaction. So it's extremely important, and we've completely lost sight of what money is. It should be able to store value over time, but over the last 112 years specifically, since the Fed was launched, that ability of money to store value over time has been eroded pretty consistently. And I think many more people are waking up to this in the post-COVID era due to all the inflation we experienced in recent years. And it's something that I think the easy money problem permeates throughout society. And the corruption of money leads to increased uncertainty. So when you're going through inflationary bouts, you need to think faster. What do I do with this money? It's going to lose value. I need to spend it. So this is another way of saying that the debasement of money leads to the increasing of time preference of individuals. So going back to the next slide about time preference, what does that do? It reflects how much someone values gratification today versus delayed gratification. So are you able to think long term? I think having a family, building a family is the longest term decision you make as an individual. And by corrupting the money, we really increase that time preference, so people aren't able to think long term. They have to think in shorter term. I get this money, I have to do something with it. And so it's very preferable to have a society with a lower time preference. And I actually want to thank Catherine for really framing something that's been talked about a lot in a different way during her presentation earlier. And she was talking about, is politics upstream of culture or vice versa? And she reframed it and said, culture is downstream of function. And I think that's what we're experiencing globally today, is that we live in a high-velocity trash society because the most important tool that we use has been corrupted. It's like Wittgenstein's ruler. You have no ability to actually think long-term because you're forced to make quick decisions because your money is being constantly debased. Long way of saying it completely destroys time preference. And this is most visible in countries like Argentina, Venezuela, Lebanon, Zimbabwe, where you hear they're going through hyperinflation. Somebody gets paid and they send their kids to the grocery store to buy groceries as quickly as possible because the prices are going to be double a week from today. They're going to be quadrupled a month out. And so that's where it's very noticeable today. But this is also happening in the United States, just at a slower pace. And like I said earlier, many people are beginning to realize it because that pace has increased in recent years. And that is because of this. We are printing money. I'm sure all of you are aware, post-COVID, printed about $4 trillion, but from 1776 to 2008, right before the great financial crisis, the Fed's balance sheet expanded from $0 to $800 billion. From 2008 to today, it expanded from $800 billion to $6 trillion. And so you have this debasement of the currency, which is increasing people's time preference. They have high time preference they have to go spend. On to the next. And so this has been talked about a lot today. This something happened in the late 60s, early 70s, the women's liberation and the feminist movement and the introduction of contraceptions. The other thing that happened is that we, in 1971, completely untethered ourselves from the gold system with Richard Nixon. And what you see here on this chart is the increase of productivity, but that has not been that has not been brought to income as well. And so you have this hamster wheel that's been getting faster and faster. People are working harder, and this has caused part of the next slide, please. Part of what has happened here is you have both parents having to go into the workforce. So instead of having one parent bring in the income for the family, you have both parents forced to go. And as you saw in the last chart, the income isn't rising, so they're working harder and harder, and they're not getting anywhere. On to the next slide. So the real estate affordability was talked a lot about today. And I think this is, particularly here in America, something that people really have to internalize, is that because of this debasement of money, real estate has really replaced a store of value good. And real estate at the end of the day is a consumable good. And the value of real estate should be the materials that go into it, plus a premium for some aesthetics on top of that, and then another premium maybe for location. But we have a monetary premium on real estate these days. People use real estate as long-term savings vehicles. And so when you talk about the problems with affordable house care, there was a lot of people saying we need to build more, we're building too many apartments. This is all, that's not the biggest problem, in my opinion. You need to demonetize real estate to bring prices down. People need to store their wealth in harder money instead of using their houses as a savings vehicle. And this chart is from earlier today. I saw it on Twitter. This really represents what's happening right now. What you see in the blue line is income, and the yellow line is affordability. And that gap between people's income and the affordability of their houses is disconnected completely. And that is, again, because it's many times not even individuals. We're becoming a renter society. You see companies like BlackRock's and wealthy individuals just buying, and not only in the United States. We see this in Manhattan before the sanctions, Russian oligarchs, Chinese nationals buying real estate to store value there. And so you have this problem with housing affordability where people are using a good in real estate that is not fit for purpose for store value. And this is because the money is broken. Here's an example of this today. Even if you do build new houses, what we're finding is that they're terrible quality. And so this was an example of a new build, $3.5 million. It's completely dilapidated before it even got its first buyer. And so this is the consequence of the high velocity trash economy running on fiat money. And this goes into much more, this affects many more things beyond real estate. Next slide, please. And again, going back to the debasement of the money, and it's almost unintuitive. It affects everything. A lot of the conversations that we're talking about today, like the ability of the central banks and the governments to print money, leads to the subsidization of things like the university system, student loan debt. The universities know that the government's going to give the students the debt to go to the university. That creates this bloated administrative layer, and then there's no accountability. There's no opportunity cost of producing a terrible service. And then on top of that, you have ideologues in the administration who essentially have a money spigot to indoctrinate people with what they want. And next slide, please. This is including the healthcare system. A lot of talk about the food, the birth control that exists. A lot of this is subsidized by money that is printed or debt that is issued that goes straight into these things that are attacking family values. Federal government grift, USAID, what's been unearthed by Doge, seeing the government issue debt that is monetized by the Federal Reserve, giving it to USAID, then gives it to media organizations and NGOs that propagandize an anti-natalist agenda is a problem. And that's all because you can hit a button and print money. And so I think a lot of the core problems that not only that we're talked about today, but that we talk about generally in society stem from this problem that we've corrupted the money. Luigi populism, Occupy Wall Street, this class warfare, go out and shoot the United Healthcare System CEO because you think that he's being a greedy CEO. That's certainly happened, but that's an outgrowth of the incentives that have been introduced into the system because of this easy money. We need to build more houses to fix the housing affordability crisis. That's not the problem. Houses are being used as a store of value. Gen Z is wasting their youth on degeneracy and hedonism. Again, their time preference has been increased artificially by the money printing, that they're forced to go out and do degenerate things. We see this in broader crypto. Bitcoin is different than crypto, but I think crypto is a manifestation of this, where you have people betting on meme coins and gambling because they want to hit it big, because they don't think that there's any way that they're going to be able to achieve their financial goals. And so they have to go out and take risks, and that also leads to hedonism, degeneracy, and the lack of thinking long-term to build a family. And then even they took our gerbs, like the immigration crisis. Like I think that's a product of the high-velocity trash economy. A lot of people, you can cite Howard Cliven, whatever you want to, but at the end of the day, the high-velocity trash economy demands that you import this cheap labor to make sure that our credit-based system can subsist. If we had hard money, that would not be a problem, or that would not be necessary. It may still be a problem depending on who's in control of the border at any given point in time, but the incentives, if hard money were in the equation, would be completely different. So yeah, I think Bitcoin, the messages that I want to convey is that Bitcoin fixes a lot of these things where, and it's unintuitive. Again, going back to the nature of money being this important tool, I think if anything, I'm not sure where everybody stands on Bitcoin, but if anything, through this presentation that I'm stumbling through right now, I would advise you just to think of the importance of money as a tool. What we've done by debasing the money in this fiat system is created Wittgenstein's ruler, where you don't really know how to measure things. You rip out opportunity cost. If you can just print money and allocate it towards anything, you're not really going to get good end results, and you're going to end up with an economy that is based on McKinsey consulting and B2B SaaS products. Don't really bring people meaning or feel like they're actually building something purposeful. If you reintroduce opportunity costs via hard money to the economy, you can begin to invest in long-term endeavors that lower the time preference of society overall to do something meaningful. And one of the most meaningful things is starting a family. And I think the printing of money, introducing the welfare state, it's been talked about a lot today, that sort of removes the need for a family. If you know that the state is going to be able to print money to support you in your later years, maybe you don't start a family because you say, you know what, I've got the safety net behind me. Last but not least, a lot of this presentation stemmed from, I reread the Chapter 7 of the Fiat Standard, and I think going back to what Catherine said earlier about culture being downstream of function, and she used it in two contexts, the car and the horse, and the other was like, maybe we have this problem with fertility globally because children's function has been removed because of technology. They're born to help us around the house and do chores, but I think there's a greater aim, and I think I've had the pleasure, I'm a Catholic, Irish Catholic, that has been brought up for many times. I've had the incredible luxury in my life. I've been blessed to, out of my 4 grandparents, one is still living, but the 3 that have passed, each one of them, I was in the room when they were on hospice. Not only me, but me, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, and there's my 3 grandparents that have passed, being able to be in that room, not only with them, but their children and their grandchildren while this was happening. Each time it was incredibly moving and felt very special. And that's what I think the function of a family is at the end of the day. So being able to lower the time preference to bring back that function of children to society is something that I think is very important. And so with that, I wanted to read 2 paragraphs from Chapter 7 of the Fiat Standard, and then we can go on to the after party. Throughout history, most humans understood that if you spent your youth building a healthy family, you stood a good chance of having loving company in your later years and someone to take care of you. The urge to have children is instinctive for most people, and happiness kids provides, The urge to have children is instinctive for most people, and the happiness kids provide makes many want them, but few think of getting children as a great way to prepare for old age. It's very common to see people extend their adolescence indefinitely and waste their youth on inconsequential nonsense, offering fleeting pleasures, but little lasting security, satisfaction, or fulfillment. Even if government is still there to provide for you financially in your old age, it cannot caress and love you as you grow old and frail. Humans have needs beyond just the financial. The need for connection, love, and familiarity is very strong, and long-term investment in family is the most reliable method known for obtaining this. Being relieved from having to provide for the long term by the fiat credit machine, individuals end up investing less in the families that would give them joy and satisfaction in their later years. Nothing in our psyche has changed over the past 100 years to allow us to overcome the need and sacrifice family. What has changed is our ability to think long-term and care for our future selves. I say this often. I truly believe that people are swinging at branches when you're talking about policy that's going to really fix a lot of these structural issues in society. It all comes back to the most important tool. We have corrupted money, and we need to get back to a sound money system that really brings sanity and lower time preference back to society. Thank you.